What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. Pretty interesting day so far. I want to go over some of the current data points, what's been coming out from the company itself, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So there's about 30 minutes left in the trading day. Currently, it is up 1.56%. A lot of volatility. So 814 the low, 860 is the high. So it had this quick, swift sell-off where it did bounce off of a very strong support. I'll talk all about that near the tail end of the video, but in my opinion, what really prompted this sell-off was the rumor that was kind of going around yesterday that was addressed this morning, but layoffs. As you can kind of see, Tanner did go on LinkedIn. There's a lot of people posting saying that they got laid off. It looks like some individuals tried to calculate it where it's roughly about 7% of their workforce, and SoFi even did post today, or they tweeted. So SoFi Investor Relations did say that it was roughly about 4% of the headcount that was reduced. But still, I think no matter what, nobody likes in kind of ambiguous situations, because whenever there's layoffs, there's good and bad. What was the purpose? Like, did they just overexpand too fast? Was there unnecessary jobs? Or was there maybe some red flag that they saw in their Q4 earnings that they are wanting to address? So there's a lot of different circumstances that could come as a result of this. Just we have to wait until their upcoming earnings just to find out the explanation on this. And plus, we'll be able to see the numbers at this time. But typically, you guys know the market, whenever there's a gray kind of scenario such as layoffs, the market automatically assumes the worst. So that is exactly what caused this sell-off right here, but it did bounce off of a very strong support. So I'm going to go over some of the technicals, but I'll go over first and foremost analysts. Very active over the last several days. So you do see this new one that just came in, Deutsche. Mark, who does have a 63% success rating, gave a $11 price target. Initiated coverage yesterday. There was Bank of Montreal. Somehow it's showing for today, but regardless, BMO did theirs yesterday, who has a 63% success rating, and Terry, who has a 53% success rating, with Barclays gave a $10 price target. So analysts are becoming a little bit more active with SoFi, so that's a good thing. A lot of these analysts, even though it came out like before the market opened, didn't really do all that much with the stock price. As I kind of complained about yesterday, just good analysts and bullish analysts like just get brushed under the rug. Negative analysts cause massive sell-offs. But still, no matter what, I feel like analysts looking at SoFi and giving $10, $9, and $11 price targets is still rather good. Moving on though, looking at shorts, will give you a good overview of some of the current data points. So right now, shorts are increasing around 108.37 thousand shares. 13.93% of the free float is being shorted. 124.65 million shares overall are being shorted, and cost of borrow average a little bit low still, so 0.85%. More than 10 million shares available to be shorted, and that is through Interactive Brokers short availability. One positive of this is that with there being so many shares available to be shorted and it is relatively cheap, if shorts really were doubtful about SoFi and maybe their upcoming earnings, they would hammer SoFi down, but they're not. So I kind of take that as a pretty positive thing in my opinion. And as well, looking at options activity, with there being, like I said, 30 minutes left in the trading day, $3.87 million in calls being purchased versus $1.63 million in puts. 44% of all the options being done today is optimistic and bullish, and of the call options that are being purchased so far today, there is anticipation for it to be above $9. So a lot more optimism is coming back into SoFi, so that's definitely a very good thing in my opinion. Looking at puts, it is anticipated for it to be sub $8 by the end of this Friday. CPI is coming out tomorrow. That will definitely shake the broader market, whether it be a positive or negative. So that's definitely going to determine where the market goes in the short term. And right now, big money isn't really doing all that much. So these are some of the transactions that have occurred on the secondary market above $100,000. So like I've been saying, just a lot of algorithmic trading that's been happening with SoFi. You can kind of tell just a lot of the barcoding right here. Just AI is trading amongst themselves, as crazy as that is. So a lot of smaller transactions, big money, most likely is just waiting for CPI coming out tomorrow. So I feel like everyone's just holding their breath. Despite that though, it looks like a lot more analysts are saying the exact same thing. As I said yesterday, value That is what is going to drive 2024. Not necessarily rate cuts or anything else, just money is waiting on the sidelines for confirmation, and then they will enter into value plays such as SoFi. And this is someone from BlackRock themselves speaking. So I just wanted to play only about 40 something seconds of this quick chat that came out earlier this morning. And it once again puts it in perspective on how there will be a lot of good value investors coming into SoFi sooner rather than later.
We still think the market can move higher in 2024. We do think it's going to be a little bit of a different year from last year, which was characterized by an enormous gain and a very narrow market. So this year, probably more muted gains, but a broader rally. So we're thinking about what are the parts of the market are cheap, which were left behind in 2023. That includes areas like energy, some of the industrials, some of the healthcare. So it's not as if that the long-term themes around big tech have gone away. They haven't. We still think this is a sector you want to be overweight, but maybe use some of the overweight that you had last year to find opportunities in some of those value areas that are really looking cheap in a market that most people view is rather expensive.
Russ, what's the overall...
So yeah, in reality, this is something I've been saying time and time again over the last little bit. Comparing SoFi to a lot of the brick and mortar banks, a lot of other fintechs, it is at a pretty good discount. This upcoming earnings should be another home run, and will really put it home on this is a crazy deal at these prices. And this is why, despite a lot of these analysts being direct competition to SoFi itself, a lot of them are very optimistic, with the exception of a small handful. So let me know your thoughts on that. Like I said, SoFi did bounce off of a very strong support, so around this S1 this morning. Yesterday was completely boring, didn't really touch both extremes, but today it did bounce off this S1, so that does show that $8.10 is a very strong support, and $8.60 was the high so far today, so it didn't really touch this pivot. But in my opinion, if CPI is positive tomorrow, then anticipate it for it to trade between this pivot and this R1. So anywhere from 873 to 936. So who knows? Let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying? Have you been selling? What have you been doing with SoFi behind the scenes? And as well, over the last probably about 5 videos, I have been bringing up a lot of analysts, kind of how they're looking for value plays. Do you personally feel that SoFi is a good value play today? Or do you think it does need to pull back down and to get maybe a lower multiple? Like, what's your thoughts on all that? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with all that said, I appreciate all of you watching.